Hi, I am Cori Panyard, and I have Dr. Melissa Shipman with me. We are from Learnwell Collective, and we are so excited to, over the course of the next few videos, talk to you about a big question that we're hearing a lot of right now, which is, should I homeschool? There's a lot involved in this question.
There is.
So, whether you're a parent who has been looking into different educational options, whether you are just kind of new to homeschooling and trying to figure some things out, we're hoping to provide a lot of really practical and helpful information over kind of a four-part series. So with that, Learnwell has been around for a while, for the last 8 years?
2017,
Yeah, we have been helping families do this very thing, kind of ask the, should I be homeschooling? How can I homeschooling? Making this process easier for people. So what are some of the reasons that you have heard from people as they've considered whether homeschooling is a good choice for their family?
That's a great question. I think there are a lot of really compelling reasons to homeschool. A lot of families these days just want the flexibility. Maybe one parent travels for work and they'd like the whole family to go. Maybe they are a family serving overseas and life is not always predictable, and so they need that flexibility. Another thing that we do hear a lot is that families are just, this is just part of our culture, right? We are so busy. Our time is so packed, and so parents are just looking for a way to make family life saner and more doable and simplify that for the entire family, but especially for their children. These days, unfortunately, we all have concerns about safety. And so that is a question that we get often, and something that we hear parents saying that they have decided to homeschool because they just feel like that's a safer environment. Maybe in terms of the in physical safety, but also just in having some more control over what their children are taught.
Right, what's being said in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there is where we are right now is just not working for whatever reason. And that could be there are probably thousands of reasons.
A ton of different options, yes.
But for whatever reason, they're coming to homeschooling because plan A, what we thought we were going to do, isn't working for our kids. And so we're going to consider homeschooling.
Yeah, that echoes a lot of the things that I have heard over the last several years working with Learnwell as well. So a lot of families hear all that. They might come to that like, this is why we're here, we're asking this question. What would be some of the advantages that families can look forward to if they choose to homeschool?
Oh, well, I think it's just an answer to some of those concerns that families have. One is just a more cohesive, simpler, saner family schedule. Not going 4 different directions within a big family, not going through, we always talk about those months of December, especially in December and May, when if you have several kids in several different schools, just being a parent is a challenge. You have to remember what color shirt to wear on Tuesday and how much money to send on Thursday and what food you need to send in on Friday. It's just a lot. And so just bringing some peace to that family schedule, I think, is one of the advantages. For sure, there is some safety in that parents do feel like we are monitoring and controlling what our children are learning about and when they're learning that. And then just, of course, just the physical safety of being at home. And then just flexibility. I would say that's probably the third biggest advantage. Just the flexibility. When you think about young children, yes, they need to learn to read. Yes, they need to learn to work with numbers and write. But when you see that interest spark in something that they're studying in science or social studies, it's just the ability to stop everything and say, okay, bud, and let's ask all your questions and let's go to the library and figure this out, or let's go online and we can tour this museum online. Let's go see what we can learn. And so just that flexibility to just not have to stay with a rigid schedule, but be able to really pivot and meet our kids where they are.
Yeah, it seems like homeschool gives a lot of control back to the parents in being able, both in the scheduling and in what you're teaching, what you're learning, and that is a really attractive advantage these days and age, especially. As enticing as that is, though, not everybody feels quite ready to jump in. I know I've talked to a bunch of people who are like, I want that control, I want that flexibility, but I just don't know that I feel equipped. I don't know that, like, I've not been a teacher before. How do I know if we're doing this right or if my kid's on track? Or they might feel a little bit isolated if they don't have other people homeschooling around them. So there are some common concerns, and over the next several videos, we're going to actually address a lot of those and kind of help underpin why how those can be overcome.
It'd be fun.
But I think there are also some considerations that we have found that people don't always jump to, like some family situations that might be obstacles that may not be preventative, but they definitely needed to be considered. So can you talk for a little bit about what some of those considerations that people might not initially think of are?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the end of this video series and just share that I have a really strong feeling about things like curriculum and all of the little choices that we make in our homeschooling, that if it's not working, so usually it's mom at the table with kids, but whether it's mom or dad, if this isn't working for them, if this is not also bringing peace and a little bit of simplicity to their world and is instead doing the opposite, homeschooling may not be a great fit. And so there are some situations that I've really seen that when we have families that are in, they call that the sandwich generation, if they have little kids but are also at the same time caring for aging parents or grandparents and really have large responsibility in that. Sometimes homeschooling is a bit of a pinch of their time when they're torn so many directions. And then I would say other life circumstances and responsibilities. Having a family business in which both parents are needed heavily to be involved, and it's maybe not something that the children can naturally or safely participate in. We have families who have a child with more severe special needs, and sometimes naturally that just lays claim on our time. And so these aren't reasons not to homeschool by any means, but I just want to encourage you to factor that in. Like, what is on my plate? What does God have right now for me, and what are those things that I need to do day to day? And ask whether homeschooling would be a great fit. Because if it doesn't, if it just works for the kids and not for mama, then it's probably not going to work for very long. So we want it to work for you too.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make. Like, we are huge homeschool advocates. We've been doing this for a long time. Like, we want more people to be able to homeschool. It does have so many great advantages, but it's not for everybody, and it would be really disingenuous and really inauthentic of us to try to sell people on homeschooling when there are things that need to be considered and looked at honestly so that you can discern if this is actually the right move for your family. And so that feels really important, just to not necessarily go in with an idealistic perspective. So once we get to this, is this actually the right step for me? And like you said, there are a whole lot of things to consider. One of the things that we're actually going to give with this video series, with this video, is a freebie that is going to be able to help you if you're asking some of these questions. We actually have a questionnaire that we've developed that is going to help you think through what are the external factors so that you can approach this in a very eyes open kind of way and know what those obstacles might be going forward. But if, let's say, we go through all of that and somebody's like, yeah, I think this still feels good. I want to try this. That's really just step one. There are still a lot of other steps along the way. So what else do families need once they've decided to take the plunge before the school year even starts, before you're even sitting at a table teaching a lesson?
Well, for sure, you do need to consider that curriculum. And so the good news and the bad news is that there are thousands of options, options available. And so you will need to find some sort of lens through which to look at that, just to help make those decisions. And that's curriculum. There are whole packages. There's curricula for particular subjects. We're going to talk about that in a later video.
In our next video, actually. I think we're going to really unpack all the curriculum? How do you
Right.
decide
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
So that's a big decision.
That's a big deal.
Another thing that you'll need to do is just map out your year. So take a calendar, a blank, I like to print a blank Google Calendar and just look at how many weeks we tend to go and then block off when we won't be able to, and then just map out that curriculum so that we can finish approximately a grade level's worth of work in a year.
It can really get away from you if you don't do the
absolutely.
planning ahead of
You've gotta
time.
do that
It's
big
wild.
picture planning
Yes.
for sure. And then you need to do the small picture, the week by week, day by day planning. We're not going to tell you that you should have a full lesson plan pre-written before you can homeschool, but you do need to have considered, what are our goals for this week? What are we going to focus on this week? And just have a plan there. And then I would say lastly, just where are we going to go for those extras? If you have a child who's very musical, if you have a child who is very athletic, where are we going to kind of pick up those extracurriculars? And so that's always a consideration. There are some of us that are homeschooling in areas that have hundreds of little organizations advertising to us and saying, here's a great place for a homeschool class. And then, at Learnwell, we've worked with families who are serving on the field who have no opportunities like that around them and need to generate that from scratch. And so that's a really important consideration if you're looking at the education of your child holistically.
Exactly, and that's the whole goal, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're encouraging you, as you were asking the question, should I homeschool? We want to help broach this from a holistic kind of mentality. So, so much to consider, so much good information to start with.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have the resource for you to be able to help kind of think through and go in with eyes wide open as we dive into the rest. But stay tuned. Our next video, we're going to break down all the curriculum. And then after that, we're going to give some more really practical, hands-on, kind of going through all of these other steps that Dr. Shipman just talked about. So
Sounds good. Thanks.